Welcome to the Mystical Motherhood podcast. I have an amazing guest on today who is very successful in her career and is recently realizing how much ancient trauma she has within her, especially sexual. And I've been working with her. This is our fourth session together. And in this session, we just had an amazing conversation where I show her another side, a different viewpoint of the way she's always been looking at herself, which is from a more critical point of view. And I show her how her self-sabotagers or her ways that she can hurt her own self, destroy her life. And I teach her exactly how to find those and lift herself up and elevate herself so that she can help to elevate all the other women on the planet that also need to heal from this same issue of sexual trauma. Yogi Bhajan taught that right at this period of time, all of us would have a choice. And the choice is choose your highest destiny. And if you don't, you will either go crazy, die, or get sick. And that's exactly what's happening in this crisis. And our highest destiny is really being at our highest vibration. And we have to take that incredibly seriously because there's a big choice on the planet right now of whether you're going to go into the drama and trauma of your world or your past or the future, or you're going to choose to vibrate at a different level. And so in my books, Mystical Motherhood and Fertile, I'm always teaching how do you get to that higher frequency? How do you change your family patterns? How do you lose the original template and heal the original wounds that keep your heart closed so that you can be the best version of yourself and completely change your family? So all of my guests are doing that. Everyone who's working with the Mystical Motherhood platform, reading these books, asking for help is doing that. Reach out at www.mysticalmotherhood.com with anything. And all my books can be found on Amazon, written under Pritam Atma. Thank you. I started out the podcast at the point in the conversation where we're speaking about the meditations that my guest is doing for her own practice to heal from the amount of sexual trauma that she's gone through in her life. I gave her Jupiter chakra meditation and a meditation called Meditation for Addiction. These are both taught by Yogi Bhajan from the Kundalini Heritage. The Meditation for Addiction is super short, very easy to do, a really good one to get your thoughts in order at this time. And the Jupiter chakra meditation is great if you had any sort of trauma, you want to go farther in your career, you're looking to just change your family patterns. It's very, very powerful. Both of these are found in my Mystical Motherhood book, my first book. They're also found on the Mystical Motherhood website, www.mysticalmotherhood.com. I hope you enjoy. We jump right in and then go deeply into her life.
I do notice something at the time. I am addictive personality type for sure. I don't know what I'd be looking for.
You'll just see with the addiction one, and it's because it's the one like everyone has a really, really hard time doing. And for me, I don't know why, but it's the easiest meditation to do. It's so easy. Like you can do it anywhere. And I couldn't do it for 6 years. And then I got so sick of myself obsessing about an ex. And I just said, okay, I need to do something. Right. And so I just knew that I had to do that. I did 11 minutes. Now I just do it like 3. So now it's not because I like broke it.
You can build up past 3 as well.
I'm
just doing 3.
Yeah. I was doing it for 11. The addiction meditation I was doing for 11.
Okay.
I don't think you need to do it for 11. I think that's what I needed to do. Then, and I was wasting so much obsessive thoughts over what these men were not doing. Right.
Right.
Because it's like whatever you're addicted to, whatever your thought stream you're addicted to, which you think it's just alcohol or you think it's just whatever, pick your poison. It's not. It's like you forget how much addiction we have to our own trauma and drama and how much that trauma and drama is like right now, everything on earth. And I mean, Guru Jagat was just talking about this morning on a phone call and she was saying, were you on that phone call?
No, I did see it come through. No, I wasn't.
So she was just saying how like every spiritual community in all of these different, even spiritual communities, even if you look at Kundalini yoga, it's getting addicted to the trauma and drama. And everyone's original trauma and drama is going to get triggered and somehow either something negative is going to come bring it in and it's like you are going to get so tested of will you self-sabotage? Will you choose that trauma and drama, which you've been trying to heal for like what, a decade?
Oh, more.
Yeah, right. 14 years or something crazy, right? Something even longer. That's what I'm hearing, like really long. And whoever's, doing on this path for so long, it's like, this is the test of like, are you really ready to go into destiny? And another thing, so Guru Jagat said something and Tej said something that was super significant. So Guru Jagat said, all of these spiritual communities, these darker forces on the planet are going to want the separation of these levels of spiritual community and the separation of within the spiritual community. And so what do? You attack the spiritual community to try to get it to be separated on all these different levels, like, right? And so all the people that have been tested, all of their drama and trauma are going to come up in some sort of, it did for me this last week, like crazy. I mean, I brought in somebody in my life that triggered every part of my drama and trauma. I was like, I thought I had already healed that, but I allowed myself only 3 days of mourning. And then I'm like out, back to work, right? So Tej said something super interesting. She said, at this time on the planet, so Tej is a teacher was with Yogi Bhajan do you know who she is? She's in Los Angeles. Very powerful teacher. And she's from Nine Treasures Yoga. And she did all the records for Yogi Bhajan. So she holds a frequency unlike any teacher I've ever sat with. And almost every single time I've ever even sat in the room with her, my life has changed. She's that powerful.
What's her name?
TEJ. And she's teaching every day, 9 a.m. Pacific, $5 at 9treasuresyoga.com, all spelled out, NINE, and Treasures Yoga. And her energy goes through the computer and it knocks you out. She does that in the class. Like I have asked her, every time I've ever asked her for a meditation or asked her to change my life, she's changed the trajectory of my entire life. Probably saved my life on several occasions, like that kind of power, right? But she kind of has the ability to, like, when you're getting a healing, maybe from me, I might say something that is so significant for you, you don't even know where it came from. It's not necessarily coming from me. But she has the ability to do that for many, many people sitting in the room with her. So you can watch her classes if you want to add in something to Rama TV is great, but Tej is so powerful and so heart-based. She's a very heart-based teacher. And as we're going into this heart-based way of living, all of our original wounds are going to be super triggered, right? So she was saying yesterday during a class, 9 a.m. Pacific, so you can just download it onto Zoom, that at this time, everyone's going to be tested, that you're either going to choose the path of your destiny, that higher path, the one you've been wanting to do, whatever. And the ego has to let go of what you think it should be or what it may look like, and sometimes see what it is in front of you, which may be helping your family, or, it's always the highest destiny. And if the people that do not choose that path of high destiny, there's 3 things that's going to happen to them. They're going to die, they're going to get sick, and they're going to go crazy. So it's either you choose spirit or you don't. Or you choose the path of, like that higher path, but you can see it. I can see it in myself, how it's so hard, even if you've had like training like a warrior for this period, to go into moments where you're like, I'd rather be sick right now. Or not, you're not really feeling that, but you feel like you're about to get sick, or you feel like on the edge of going crazy, or you feel like you're on the edge of that insanity. Or do you know what I'm saying? And then you can bring yourself back, right? You're saying like, right, you were on the edge of it last week, and now you're back. Right? So how do you choose in every single moment not to do those 3 things? I'm going to repeat it so you remember, because it's so significant. We have a choice right now on the planet. And I believe it's not even going to be a long period of choice. I think the choice is so tiny. It's like a 6-month period. I really think it's like pick or don't. Because I think everyone always thinks that there's so much time to make a decision. Yeah. And I've got more time to do that. I'll finish college later, or I'll be a better mom tomorrow, or, I'll call my grandma later. And it's like, don't forget that time and energy and all those different things are shifting right now. And relationships that may have lasted, 8 months will last 3 days, and you'll get the same effect out of it. And things that are ending, allow them to end and be taken away. So another thing she said in class that was super significant for me to hear, and might be significant for you to hear, and I'm going to repeat the thing again in a second, but she said relationships and careers that are taken away from you are a blessing. And she's always said human rejection is God's protection.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And it's like we forget that because our ego wants to control what a relationship looks like and who comes into our lives and how it looks. But we forget my highest prayer is always take me to my highest destiny.
Yeah.
It's my number one prayer, or help me to awaken humanity. And it sounds so, such a crazy prayer. But it's like, that is really my only prayer every single day. And then sometimes I've asked for that prayer, and then my life's gotten shaken up so much, I actually stopped praying it because I was like, you can't do anything. I can't handle anymore. Like, I really can't handle anymore. I don't know if you've had this happen, right?
I think this happens to me all the time.
So tell me about what you're feeling, because I might be saying this.
No, I do that. I ask for big things, and then it gives me big things to see if I can handle and do the big things. And then I have to go, okay, that's enough for now. I'm obviously not ready, because my thing is about who I become in this journey, and that's why some things I put up with for a little bit longer than most people around me deem necessary. But I feel like I know when I've learned enough from this person. I don't like to get rid of things too soon and just cut them off if I'm still learning and coming out each time a better person and stronger, or like it always pushes me to find out something wrong, because I like to ask the question going, okay, what am I doing here? What could I do better here? Before I go, this person's behaving like this, and not blaming them, but going, okay, what is it about them that I need to see? And until I get to that point, like even with employees or whatever, I will sometimes go a little too far, and it's semi-detrimental to me, but I have to have learned it because I don't want to repeat it and go through it. That's in my head. So sometimes when I ask for more, or not more, to help more, that kind of happens. I definitely got a lot of those lessons through the brain injury, because I had very little awareness and I wasn't conscious, and the intention was not there. So there was a lot of sort of shark snake kind of people that sort of came in, and again, tests, and they've all pushed me, and it's that thing, do you really want it, Lani? I'm going to present people in your life, and I have to keep pivoting. Every time I pivot, I kind of and go through trauma with it and come out the other side. Like the other night, I got introduced to a great lawyer that the things he's telling me now, I should have been told 4 years ago, and it would have just changed everything. But I had a little chuckle at the end because I was finally there, and it's in the nick of time for me to meet this guy, and before any other investors and that come in, to learn and know this stuff that other people around me knew but never said anything because they thought it might, end in their favor. So, and each time that happens, there's this little almost like a goosebumps, like a confirmation that at the end of the day, no matter what I've been suffering, that same truth I have every day about wanting to do the right thing, no matter what, sticking to my values, no matter how much I feel like I suffer sometimes because it doesn't happen straight away. Some of these things are years later, based on what in my heart I will refuse to do years ago for my business and stuff.
What I'm hearing for these things you're saying, first off, that's awesome. You found that lawyer for your business. What a blessing.
Oh, huge blessing. These guys are going to be amazing. Oh, they are amazing. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. I'm really happy for you. It's really awesome. But you know what I was just thinking as you were telling me about the brain injury, and I'm remembering through our other sessions, and I feel like, because right now what you're talking about is you're saying, I put a prayer out into the world, and then I get meet with controversy as my prayer gets answered. And I have to test myself to see if my worthiness is high enough to actually make that prayer occur. And so these people will come in and test me to see if I can raise my worthiness and to the level of the highest prayer of my highest destiny. which can always be changing, right? And I almost think I'm going to say something that you may or may or not have ever considered, but I almost wonder if you were praying and praying for all of the abuse and sexual abuse that you experienced as a child and then recreated as an adult. If you asked for that brain injury to erase the memories of all these things, hoping that it would, does that make sense? Like, I'm wondering if you had some sort of a prayer. Like, I was just writing this morning my third book. I was talking about how we have templates, like a father template, a mother template, a business template, or what we understand as the world. And in order to recreate and redesign something better, we have to recreate a template. And so I wonder if your template of the sexual abuse was so strong in you, it's almost like you said, wipe it out of me, wipe it out of me. And so it's like your higher self or something came along that you had such a prayer for that you caused does this make sense? You put a period, a glitch.
The things that have been coming up massively since I started to, but have come to a head now. The amount of times that I have tried to commit suicide and come very close. And it was actually right before that, and I didn't remember this till like a year or so later, that it was what was leading up to that accident. I had enough. Didn't know if I could actually take a lot more. I say this all the time and I keep going, but and I believe I was having thoughts of not wanting to be here and stuff like that, be taken out. And I had a bit of a crossing over kind of feeling experience throughout the injury. And I can't recall or place myself where and when, but it was probably the most peaceful thing I've ever seen or experienced. It was probably a split second, but it felt like it lasted for an hour, and it was just serene and like just plain colors, but it was like a voice or a message of almost a realization that feeling that kind of peace of nothingness, but then like a looking down on the earth, and I wasn't of it anymore. Like, that's it, done. And I was this, no, I'm not done yet. Send me back, that kind of thing. Whether this is a dream or what, this is just my personal experience and visualization of what recollection I have, and I feel it. And it was something that was so profound. I didn't even really talk about it for a long time because I didn't want to sound crazy. But that was a big shift in helping me start to try and realize that I can do more, and that I need to be here. It didn't fully take away that kind of feeling, because that feeling of like complete escapism and wanting to kill myself started really, really young. And I don't act on anything at all now, but it's the feelings of that still come with it, that feeling of just end it, like what's the point, all that kind of stuff, which is stuff I'm trying to lift. It's in saying that, I said to a friend the other day, it's also the same thing that makes me sometimes as ballsy and brave as I am, because when someone tries to do something to me, whether business, whatever, in my thing where I don't take it because I'm like, you think you're going to treat me worse than I've treated myself? Let's go. And I've been using that as like, you can't treat me worse than I have treated myself. So I'm not going to take
also attracting. So two things with that. That's also attracting people. Like, if you have a belief system, nobody can treat me worse than I'm treating myself, you're going to attract people that are going to test you. Right. And try to, do you know what I'm saying? Like, so it took me a while to attract more men that are more conscious or listen, or, you know, that I had to fight myself for that. I talk about it all the time on podcasts. It's like, I had to fight myself of like, what in me attracts an unavailable male? What in me? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, what about it? So I had to go through all my life. I mean, just deconstructing every single sabotager, every single pattern. So what they were saying to me before I got on the call with you is they want you to go through your particular template of a sabotager. Mm-hmm. What's your like when things get good, when things get good, okay, so now you got this lawyer. I mean, when things get bad, let's just pick what it's bad, right? Whatever, like good or bad. And people can sabotage when it gets really good because their nervous systems can't handle the good. And then when it gets bad, they're like, let's really sabotage it and make ourselves the victim.
Yeah.
Where is this normal part? And it's also staying neutral and not getting, I tend to go too high or too low because I grew up with a manic dad. So depression and, or creating chaos in my life through high spiritual experiences, through constantly traveling, through the highs and lows of travel, the highs and lows. Like I love to write a high and a low. I love to write a high and a low in relationship. I've recognized within myself how I never had ordinary. My life has never been ordinary on the level of spiritual experience. And then that's all material. That's all ego. Just mirroring back to you. And then you're going to find your own sabotager through me expressing mine, because that's how we all learn, right? So a high and a low like that, there's art in the ordinary. There's art in getting up and making breakfast, going to school. And I always kind of look down upon it. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to live in a suburban life. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be normal. So I was like, I'll travel the world. I'll do, I'll go to the Himalayas and have, these high spiritual experiences happen. Like these really high things and these really, really, so my lows are low and my highs are high. And in that, as a child, that felt normal to me. I had a completely chaotic, emotional experience as a child. So high and low was normal. And when it becomes ordinary, my body system is not used to that. Yeah. And so, for example, I was even thinking about attracting men. This is for you to recognize. When there's an experience that you have that butterflies towards or emotionally attracted to, it may be the engagement of, just a reminder, I'm sure you know this, but
I run from those.
Well, right, you know this, but like a reminder, but it also could be with business, and also could be, we forget that it's not just relationships. Sometimes if it's not ordinary, if we live on these, chaotic lives, and a lot of people do, we get, it's not just relationships, is that it's now that if you've conquered the part of relationships, it can get transferred to other parts of your life. And those same sabotagers, so that's what I'm trying to teach you, is those same sabotagers that you said, oh yeah, I conquered it in my relationships, I am healed. It's going to just transfer. And that's what everything does. So let's say you stopped overeating, or you stopped overworking out, or you stopped looking in the mirror 2 hours a day as a woman, right? That can get transferred onto a spiritual practice. So that if you're a type A, I'm just giving you different examples of how we transfer our sabotagers around. And then our ego or our mind mechanism thinks, no, we didn't. Right. And so I want you to, so even with spiritual practice, I found myself, if I didn't get up to do my sadhana every morning at a certain time, and had just grinded around it. And I was like, oh, I'm just transferring my eating disorder to my spirituality. And I'm calling myself spiritual. It's just bullshit. So where are you bullshitting yourself, and where are you sabotaging, and why do you go to the part? When does it get, what little girl in you goes to the part of the suicide, and how old are you when you want to commit suicide? How old are you? Well, who's the little girl speaking?
I'm probably 10.
10.
Yeah.
Okay. So every time a sabotager comes up, I want you to do this kind of practice. Okay. And you can pick however you want to do it, but it works for me. So as the little girl, as the wound comes up, or as the person comes into your life that challenges you, and you get off center, and you get off ordinary, you get off neutral, and you start to go to that wound, always find out what age you're at. Mm-hmm. Do you know this way of practicing? Have you ever heard of something like this?
Yeah. No, it's good to hear, though.
Just a reminder, right? It feels like you've heard all these things. I'm just reminding you.
A lot of it's familiar, but
it feels familiar, but it for me, it's I never want to do it, and then when I do it, I never want to do it, but then when I do it, it's great. So I'm going to give you an example of one I just did, and I met a man and he was older, and I began to try to heal him. So he had some healing to do, and he was wanting to be healed. And then he began to emotionally pull away from me. And I got incredibly triggered by this older man. And I was like so upset, upset that he didn't want to receive my love and I didn't receive love back from him. And, the whole game. And I mean, I got incredibly triggered, and I said, what is going on? And then I said, oh my God, this is my father, the mentally ill father. He's not necessarily mentally ill. He's just triggering something, a memory in me. Everybody needs to be healed right now. This man is not mentally ill. He's an amazing man. And I got triggered because I saw the part of the little girl in me that wants to heal daddy. So daddy will return her love. So instead of, I did get mad at the man, but instead of fully getting mad at the man, I said to the little girl, you don't have to heal daddy anymore. I'm going to let go of the obligation of attracting or even feeling like you need to have that wound reestablished so that you can see it again and fully let go of it.
Yeah.
So is there times recently where you have been triggered and wanted to maybe commit suicide, which is maybe your sabotager?
It's definitely gets triggered by lack of achievement, productivity, and financial stuff. It gets triggered around feeling a failure around that. And my dad, I definitely know I still have more cutting for my dad of ties or whatever, but he was abused by someone who was very fat. So he's a fattest. So that's where the pressure of that. And then those people got really rich, so then hated wealthy people and everything was bad about money, and then he got sick and lost everything. So it was kind of this self-perpetuating thing for him. And then you saying about that you don't have to heal or help daddy, that's what I did my whole life, just giving. I literally studied what I studied to try and help him, and he still wouldn't listen, and went into health for that reason, went into that. And then I used it for myself, which was fine. But I can't remember your original question. Something about my dad.
What was your sabotagers? So like right now when
money, finances. And I really did notice that I think for the last 4 or 5 weeks I've been working so hard, doing so much, almost 24 hours a day, and nothing really seems to have been working. And one thing worked the other day, and I literally just dropped and cried because how many weeks of doing and trying and nothing had worked to feel like I had achieved something or reached something or something had broken through. I need to be productive. And I think that's my addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I need to feel like I've gotten a result. Good or bad, I just need a result.
But this is what we were talking about in your other sessions when we were talking about how trauma unhealed makes you run around in circles, like what we're talking about. That's why I gave you the Jupiter chakra meditation, the meditation for trauma, which is in my Mystical Motherhood book. But how we will run around the block 18 times to get the coffee. When we can just walk in, buy the coffee, drink the coffee, do our work, right? And before my trauma was healed, like before I did that meditation for 2 years, after I did that meditation for 2 years, my life sped up at a force I could not even imagine. I did other things too, but I wrote 2 books. I did 60 podcasts. I have a great job at an amazing clinic, started like actually doing concrete things at a faster pace that maybe would have taken a lifetime within 2 years.
Yeah.
Now I'm on my third book. You know what? And it takes time, but I saw how much my drama and trauma was confusing me, and I was spending more time getting upset than actually doing something. And you don't realize how much we're doing that, right? And so I feel like sometimes what is hard for people is the meditation practice, when put into gear and has a purpose, like get this out of me, God. Get this pattern out of me. I am on my knees. It flips time and space, and it creates more time for people because then you actually have more time.
Yeah.
Rather than people thinking it takes time away, it actually does the opposite. It gives you more time, and it makes you bend time. or things that may seem impossible to, others to get accomplished and completed are not. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Because when you're attached to that level of trauma, which is not out of you yet, even though all the work you're doing, it's still there. You're just 20 of those hours you could have gotten done quicker. Doesn't that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You know this. But what I want you to start to do is, even we're going to work on it now, is like when those sabotagers come and so if we have a high mission and we have a high prayer, right? You're going to get tested of, are you sure you want this prayer? Are you sure you want this prayer? So depending on how low your self-worth is, you're going to have people come in to test you to see if you can really get there, to really, really confirm it. And those tests are going to be either the answer or your worst nightmare. But you will sabotage yourself by going into the tests of the trauma and drama. So this is back to what we were talking about at the beginning. All of what we're doing right now is a test of all the work we've done over the last 10 years. And if you've done no work over the last 10 years, you got a lot to do. And it's, will you choose the drama and trauma? Will you go to back to this original thing? Are you choosing your highest destiny? Are you choosing the drama and trauma, which will lead to 3 places on the planet: death, sickness, or going crazy? And you can see it. And I'm in New York right now, and I cannot tell you, when I walk around, the amount of fear I feel around me. Within me, there's a state, there's a couple of days a week, or 1 or 2, where I have a very difficult day. I'm transforming those days generate a lot of energy, which is good because I have the skills for it. So even if you're like on a super warrior path, this is heavy. It's not going to get any easier. And I feel like we're going to have a few more of these hit us over the next 30 years. And so I just remind yourself, like, it could get a lot worse. And just remind yourself when that happens, like, you're hitting the path of destiny. You're hitting the path, you're hitting the path of destiny. You're going to choose that because the other 3 are not going to be a great choice. So that highest destiny, great. You have like several subconscious sabotagers come in that are going to represent daddy and mommy, that are going to hurt you so much. They're going to want to get you off path into the drama and trauma and bring you into the lower 3 chakras. For you specifically will be the sexual trauma. You're going to get tested big time. And it's not over yet because it's not totally healed. But if you know what your original wound was, so it's first the identification of the original wound, then how you'll get tested by the drama and trauma of that original wound. Does this make sense? Like, your original wound, you can even have more than one. So I'm going to give you my example. My original wound that I'm working on right now, clearing within my life now, is dad's manic depression, attracting that through the male partner. I mean, it's so many layers of this, and how we can heal the male programming, right? The inner patriarchy, and go into complete self-power and self-serenity. But so that's my highest prayer, is probably just to completely clear that within myself so I can help other women do that. Because the mother wound were my first 2 books. So what's your highest prayer right now?
I don't know how to,
what are you hoping to heal right now so that you can heal it and transfer that to other people? That's a good one.
The suffering. To heal.
Which level? Everything's suffering.
But just the, I guess, the attachment to the suffering. I have so many people in my life that are also just, I know it doesn't skip anyone. It doesn't all skip it, but they're very robust. They don't go deep into like the stuff I go into, and everything sort of seems very like here and fine, and they, are like that, and they've always been like that.
Right.
So I trying to understand, for me, I was like, what am I doing wrong to not see or be like that? But is to be able to disconnect from, or just take apart and see the trauma as like, some story I'm not drawn into or attached to, just finding ways to just see it for what it is, not who I am.
So there's a couple things with that to make you feel less crazy. So there's alchemy and there's alchemists. And so last week when I was teaching you about like alchemy and told you about that book, which is like High Alchemy from ancient Egypt. And so there are people on this planet, and there's not that many of them, maybe 1 million or thousands probably, that came and incarnated on Earth to do the work for many. And you may not even know that you're one of them, right? And so everyone is always going through that process I explained to you last week, which is the calcination phase, the distillation phase, coagulation, separation, and then to the higher elements of fermentation up into conjunction, just like a beautiful process, right? And this is the process of the elements working through us on all levels all the time. Ayurveda, it all is connected, right? There's a difference between everybody's always going through that process. So all your friends that you see around you, 99 out of 100 are always going through alchemy. Their alchemy process is very light. So it's sort of like living in suburbia and living out their life. And so when things come up, it's manageable because they didn't choose an incarnation to come in to clear it. They're still in a small, like a different phase of their incarnational process, right? There are other souls that chose a different kind of an incarnation. And they choose to have these intense experiences to clear for more people. And I would call them the alchemists. So alchemists tend to go deeply into the fire, deeply into the distillation phase, deeply into these things where it almost feels like absolute insanity. But you're clearing it not just for you, but for many, many people and for the planet in general, right? So that may be true. There may be a tendency for you to go into the little girl that always felt mentally ill and to create more mental illness around all that. But all these meditations, if you start to do them like I've taught you, I promise you it will get better. But just to make you feel not crazy, there is this thing called alchemy, which when you read that book, and you'll see yourself as the alchemist. And alchemists tend to, where other people aren't living in the land of Hogwarts, what's it called? Hogwarts.
Hogwarts.
Right. They don't know Hogwarts exists.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, you don't know Hogwarts exists, so you don't know that there's an actual war happening on another realm right now. And that's your deal. That's fine. But you are not here to convince anybody of your point of view.
No.
You're here to do your job and work through the alchemist thing that you signed up for as the alchemist, which is you churn energy. You move through things faster. You find people that'll help you. You see the generational patterns play out. You can see mommy and daddy shit. You can see mommy and daddy shit within you. Even the idea that you have the ability to see those patterns, 99% do not. They don't even see it. So even the seeing of it is a gift of awakening. So I'm giving you a different viewpoint so that everyone's made you feel crazy. But I'm going to say something. They're crazy. They don't know what's going on. They're living in a complete controlled reality, controlled by their parents, controlled by society, controlled by the government, controlled by these things. And the breaking out from all of that is painful.
Yeah.
It's horrid. The waking up is not light and love. It's an awful, destructive, self-sabotaging, looking at your monsters, taking out the entities and saying it ends with me.
So, and that is a lot of what I have said since I was a kid, actually. I'm looking at my family, looking around. I made a decision back then that I didn't want to be like them. I didn't want to carry any of what anyone did around me on. I wanted to break the chain.
And you chose to do it. You incarnated into the family to do it. And that's why you came to me and you've randomly found me. And here we are. And I'm mirroring to you. You're not crazy. Okay, and so you are not crazy. So the one sabotager that you need to take out of yourself right now is I'm crazy. I don't deserve to be here. What am I doing? You've got to take that out. That's what daddy told you. And so everything, like what we're back to the beginning, everything is going to try to get us to stop our mission.
Right.
Everything's going to get us off point. Like this week, I was super triggered by this man. I wanted to crawl into a ball. I was so triggered. And I was like, I have to write my third book. Why am I wasting a day? Every hour wasted is off destiny. Every hour I do not put effort into helping and like get this information out there is a wasted point of my life. I'm choosing that other path. I'm choosing death in myself right there, sickness by lying in bed, or, craziness. I'm choosing all those three things. So we have to that's the biggest thing I could tell you today. What are you going to choose? So the deal is, when you see the sabotager come up, you find the original wound. And this is the opening of the heart. You locate it in space and time. Okay. You say, who is talking right now? What age am I? So you'll hear, oh, this is whatever. It doesn't have to be a specific age. This is the little girl that wanted, for me, I'm bringing back my example, the little girl that wanted to heal daddy's mental illness, which was my whole life. Right. But, there's certain ages and memories I could probably see. And we can go through it for you to do it. Super powerful. So then you take a cauldron, put it in front of you, because we're going to use alchemy, because alchemy, instead of alchemy using us, we're going to use it. And you use the fire element. You can burn it like a purple flame or a red flame. And you just literally take the memory that's coming. And this is all in my book, Fertile, how to do this. And they gave me a full meditation using fire, then water, then air, then earth to heal it. And other people have used this too. There's a woman I worked with named Elizabeth that I'll put in the notes. She's very powerful, and I will put her as a healer in the notes that I worked with. Elizabeth Burke. She's located in California, and she taught me how to do this first using fire. So just take the memory, take it out, burn it, and then use water over it, have air come in and like melt it away. And then you'll be left with some salt, which you can either put back in your body. But then you have to have a conversation with the little girl that's trying, because not only is the outside force trying to sabotage you, but you're allowing it. Your little girl is allowing you to get sabotaged, right?
Yeah.
So when that happens, you have to say to the little girl, you no longer have the obligation to do 1, 2, 3. Any contracts you have with daddy or anybody else coming into your life that need to fulfill that for you, there's no contracts with them, because you have to remember this is all hologram. So anybody coming in to create that feeling within you, it's not their fault. You're creating it within you because of your sabotager. Your only person who's creating the drama and trauma is you, because you can choose every single time to not do it. So first off, you find the wound, you find the age, you have a little talk with the little girl, and you find out you got to locate the pattern, right?
Yeah.
You have a little talk with the little girl, and then there'll be a contract with mom or dad or with the person that's in your life that's teaching you that lesson. So only giving myself as an example. So the man who comes in, who's asking for healing, that's older than me, represents daddy needing healing his mental illness. So I get really triggered, though the man is not my father. I get triggered like a little girl, and I get mad at him, which isn't fair to him or me. It's just my dad I'm mad at. Yeah. So I have to hold the little girl at night and calm the little girl down. And literally, you may have to take a pillow to do this. And you say to the little girl, any obligation you have to healing daddy is over. This contract is broken. And you can see the contract burning in the flame and using the elements to release it. And you'll see the entire thing in real life change before your eyes every single time. Because you're basically telling your consciousness that the adult is in charge. So you have to tell your consciousness, it's like you can even say it out loud. Your consciousness needs to hear that there's an adult in charge of your life.
I actually have that on my fridge now. I have it in big writing, and it actually says, you wouldn't let a child drive your car. Why would you let a child drive your life? And all and just recognizing what stage I would be in, what stage of trauma for the child if I choose to react in a certain way, just so I can start to remember that I'm choosing it from path. If I'm being, I don't know, more, it has to be my way or stuff. Just trying to figure out if there is a tantrum situation going on. But that's on my fridge door.
Right. And then it's going to be so easy for all of us to stay in that tantrum phase. And then if you stay in that tantrum phase, the other person you're working with is going to, because you're both meeting at the level of the drama. You're both basically like 6-year-olds, and it's like, okay, I'm going to actually grow up now. And I said it out loud to myself the other night. I haven't done this forever, but the pressure right now is on. And I was like, oh, got to grow up or I'm going to lay in bed for 3 days, and I had to say out loud to my little girl, you don't have to heal daddy anymore. Daddy's dead. And then it was like, all of a sudden I just was like, oh yeah. Like the little girl was like, oh, okay. And because it lives like an entity. So I talk about entity all the time in the podcast. And I talk about the healing of entities in lines and the healing of entities within people. Sabotagers are the same. They're different personalities. And you can actually have a conversation with this person's sabotager and not them. So list out, let's give me 5 of your favorite sabotagers.
Overworking, like working or like trying to get ideas or something, I guess.
You're pretending like you're getting stuff done, like needing to be busy to feel accomplished.
Oh no, definitely not that. I'm actually
actually overworking.
Actually overworking.
Okay, right.
No, can't stop. Like the pressure's on now. My addiction is a fear of missing something and losing it. It's just I can't stop trying to find ideas and new ways and testing, and I'm constantly coming up with. I would have a bonfire out there of shit ideas coming up through COVID just in case, because I don't want to miss anything. So I don't know what you would call that. I go and get so much information. It makes me insane. I'm on every webinar, seminar. I'm listening to everything. I'm talking to everything from lawyers to doctors to everything, trying to make sure that I'm, not going to fuck it up, I guess.
Okay. Number 1, there's no space for you.
Yes.
Number 2, what's next? The suicidal part of you, right?
That doesn't come that often. When it does, it's sort of harrowing. I know I'm not going to do anything. It's so I guess there's worthlessness. It's this. It's like a death of internally. It's just a nothingness.
Like the underworld, going to the underworld and breaking down that story, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And with the first one, it's like the only person you're really sabotaging is you.
Yes.
And it's like you'll sacrifice what I'm hearing with the first one is like you'll sacrifice yourself for everybody else. Yes, and there's got to be some sort of a past life with you, like being a general or you being a leader, needing to like die first, but being the last on the battlefield. That's a big part of that.
Oh, that's literally how I feel. Like I'm in a modern world, but I feel like that. It's really weird because I'm like, I make a fucking water bottle, but I feel driven by something else that's like feels. I would put myself on the line, and I had to stop myself. I used to say a lot, die trying, and I just don't say that anymore because that's just a shitty saying.
Right. And you have to, with the first one, you have to know the difference between the realm of the hungry ghosts and then the realm of, I might go grab something to read to you that was super potent for me recently. The realm of the hungry ghosts, or if you're actually being pushed by God. And so my sister would always say, like, when I was getting all these degrees and always, pushing myself to go to the next level and nothing was ever enough and nothing was ever enough. Just like, you're in the realm of hungry ghosts. And I really couldn't tell if I was being pushed by God to go on my mission and to deliver what I came here to deliver at a higher speed, because other people don't understand the speed I was moving at. If I was sabotaging, just another, I'm always trying to give you I'll always give people a different reflection because we're too hard on ourselves. And so the other reflection of that is that you may be being pushed by God to clear yourself or deliver something. And so you think it's bad, but in reality, like no one else gets it because they don't have that level of drive. right? So there could be, because there is the drive of like always wanting to create because you're running God through you. God is always creating. Does that make sense? So there's that side of it. Or if it's the realm of hungry ghost, and the realm of hungry ghost is I'm never satisfied in a production. And there's also another concept of looking at that which is in my book, Fertile, which is the understanding of how we move through the elements. And so fire is always going to, like I was talking about last week, I'm going to break it down for you easier. But sometimes if we don't have the balance of the elements in there, and as I saw through my own life, I never had been in the earth element. And the earth element, so as you go through the fire, have you ever been in the earth element?
I don't really think so.
So that would be where you would be going next. And I feel like you're in distillation right now, which is more of the water element, and it's the emotional balancing. But as you go through the alchemical process and you read that book I told you about last week, the Elmer Talbot, but you'll find the fire is what brings up all the ego and the materialism that needs to be separated and destroyed, right? Then the water will distill it. So it'll look at the emotional, what's left over from the emotional wreckage. Then the air element will come in and lift away things quick. So air element moves you. It makes you move out of things quickly. It really changes the consciousness, right? And then you go into the earth element and you ground. And from my own point of view of being in the earth element, I stopped moving around. I've lived in one apartment for 2 years. I didn't travel. I stopped traveling. I just enjoyed New York. I just went to work like a normal human. Like this is a part of my job right now, like going to work, coming back, doing these things, like learning how to be ordinary, learning how to be on the earth plane, learning how I don't need super crazy spiritual experiences to make me high or low. Learning what it is to date an ordinary man that doesn't drive me crazy. Like even my ex-husband, we did not have an ordinary life financially, travel-wise, house-wise. Our life was wild. Nothing about it was ordinary, and I didn't know how to choose an ordinary man. And so like I had to teach myself what is earth on a spiritual level, rather than living in such a galactic world where spaceships and all these different things are like my normal talk, right? So that's the earth element. And then you can go into the ether element, which is like, talking with the angels, having these experiences where you're floating out of your body and you're going up to heaven, and you can have the galactic speak to you. And that's all normal too, because that's all the fifth dimension of the heart opening, right? All of this will be one world in the next 30 years. But you have to just know the element you're in and honor that element. I think actually reading Fertile, even if you're not going to have a baby, is going to help you really understand this. And that book on alchemy, you'll be like, oh my God, I didn't know I was in these elements. And you'll have a perspective that you're not crazy. So you're honoring the elements you're in and seeing where the sabotager is from the age you're at. Super powerful things.
Definitely the no space for me. Yeah, I just don't even exist for anything when there's someone else not someone else, but lots of things in me. And I guess I set it up that way. I've never really been great at putting myself first, but I've usually taken a bit of a bipolar stance on it. Like I'll give, depleted, and then do amazing to build back up and stay, and will typically sabotage myself when I'm doing really well, more so than when I'm not doing well. If that makes sense.
So tell me what those sabotagers are when you're doing really well.
Sabotages when I'm doing well. Especially if I'm looking and feeling well and fit and healthy, I'll throw in things that throw me off. Like I'll probably start binging, or turn off my just not go once here and there, and then it turns into all of a sudden 3 months I haven't gone or haven't been consistent. Very all or nothing with some of it. I did really well out of my brain injury because I had to go, because I didn't even know what I was doing. So I had to learn it from others. And then once I started to get it myself a little bit, I took it on myself, and then it dropped off because I got too busy. And I do little things, incidental things, but I know that I'm talking in circles because I can't.
Because sometimes the sabotagers are super subtle. And so, okay, so this is the goal with that for you, okay?
Popcorn and tobacco?
So even everybody, we all have sabotagers, okay?
Right.
Even for us to catch it is a beautiful thing. You know what I'm saying? Like even if we're about to catch it and we don't catch it and we think about catching it, the next time we're going to get closer. And this is the same thing with Eckhart Tolle's talking about, like catch the thought or catch the thing. These are really advanced shit.
Okay.
I mean, what I'm saying to you is not like, that's like saying to somebody like, stop smoking. It's so hard. Stop drinking alcohol when you're an alcoholic. No, we are addicted to our sabotagers. It's the only thing we know. They are imprinted in us, like from the beginning of this, like the template. Daddy created a template. Mommy created a template, womb and onward. How do we, and then as a little girl, we are responding to that in our environment. And so we are constantly going back into that vibration or frequency that we were programmed with as a child. So any vibration or frequency, as the earth is going up in vibration or frequency, we start to go up in vibration or frequency. All the little wounds within us, the heart wounds, without being healed, will want to go back to our original vibration or frequency of the other parents. We are programmed with their frequency. So the people that came into the families that are listening to this Mystical Motherhood podcast and onwards are changing frequency. When I was asked to write this book or start this program, they said, name it New Frequency. I was like, that nobody's going to know what I'm talking about, because we chose to come in and create a new frequency. And it's very hard to when you're programmed with this old crap. And so my sabotager was, I would do so much meditation, yoga, and Kundalini. I would do like 3 days of white tantra. I'd be on my highest vibration. I'd go drink wine every fucking time. I'm like, and then I was like, oh, this wine tastes so good. Why does wine taste good? I was sabotaging my frequency with a subtle glass of wine that's not taking 6 shots of vodka. So I thought I was doing better, right? And I was like, I feel the best I've ever felt. Let's go and drink some wine to celebrate every time. I don't think it's over with. I think I still do it, right? Not the same. And so,
yeah, you're right.
First, it's the sabotagers will come a little bit better. Then you'll start to catch them a little bit faster. Then maybe you'll pick a better poison. But it's all a process, and it doesn't happen overnight. And it's all just the moment in time where, for example, this relationship with this guy, I saw this playing out till July or August. And I said, okay, so the little girl in me can play out victim, daddy, till July or August, or just tell the guy, fuck it, no. Grow a little girl up. So what I would have done, what I would have sabotaged for, let's say, 6 months, I did for a couple of days. My sabotagers are not gone. They're faster.
Yeah.
I catch them faster. I don't go into the vibration as easily. It's a little harder to get me off track now. I'm not so addicted to my own misery.
Right. Yeah. That's
what I want. Getting there. I can see it right now. From the difference between last week and this week is massive.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah.
Right.
Huge. Yeah. Sunday, I started to turn a corner on Tuesday. And it's not that things got better. I definitely got better and was doing those things, everything. And then yesterday I noticed I had a fleeting moment of I know that I can't get words to it, but it's that moment where, enough, it is enough. And I have done enough. I've got us into enough of a holding pattern that we should survive this, which is fucking huge. Never really do I sit here and go, I did this. And it's a team effort. I have a team and they've done an amazing job. I fucking did this like a orchestra of like no one that's ever played an instrument before. And we're only...
You need to work to do that. Give yourself some credit.
Right, yes.
Another thing you do as a sabotager, as an outside viewer, is you don't... One thing about the opening of the heart, it's the giving and the receiving love. And so this is massive. So as all of our hearts are opening on the planet, we need to learn how much we give and how much we receive and how we sabotage on both ends of that.
And so one thing for you is like you're very critical of yourself because daddy was always critical of you. And so you don't know how to self-love in that way. So I think you actually enjoy working.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
You get a lot from it. I think as long as you're healthy, it's fine. As long as you have other things going on in your life. And I think that you should find a way maybe the sabotager is actually looking at the work as something negative when you are getting something out of it. So I'm giving you a different point of view. But the sabotager might be your criticalness of everything you're doing, despite that you just did something successful.
Yeah.
And something rare that something 1 out of 90, 1 out of 100 doesn't do, or only 1 out of 100 completes. Right. So the sabotager might not be the overwork. The sabotager might be the criticism of the good job you do for yourself, the criticism of the amount of work you've actually completed, and the inability to receive the praise and receive the joy from what you create. And we do that in relationships. Like, let's say a man, doesn't do enough for us. So then he does something. He does something, but it might not be the perfect way, right? Because our hearts aren't open to receiving it, we say it's not enough. He still didn't do enough. No, it's on us. We didn't receive what he was capable of giving to us in that time.
Right.
And does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely at the point where I'm angry because there's nothing left for me. For me personally, internally, and also in the business, I've propped everyone else up that everyone's doing great. Not one person's time's kind of gone, are you okay? Knowing I'm not, but I'm putting on the brave face of being okay. I know that's not their job, and I'm trying to find a place to be okay that I'm sort of flattened so they can survive. And I'm not trying to put it negatively. I'm trying to figure out how I can deal with that.
Let me flip that on you too. Let me give you the other viewpoint. Okay. Without understanding, how this would all happen, I'm now working with you an extra session. So right there, you're receiving. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you got that infrared sauna, the first thing we talked about today. Right there, you're receiving.
Yeah.
And so what you need to say to the universe, which I've been doing, and you know what's so interesting is I said within this last week, I said, I'm ready to receive love. I'm ready to receive love. In one day, I was booked on a massive podcast. I received messages from women all over the world, thanking them for my work. And then I received your gift in the mail. And I just said, how beautiful is that? I asked to receive, and I manifested a Cuisinart.
A what?
A Cuisinart, like a cooking Cuisinart, because I didn't want to buy one, and my neighbor gave me the Cuisinart. And I said, I was so mad about this man, right? And I was just focused on the negative and what he wasn't giving me and how he wasn't giving me love. And then, oh my God, the universe laughed in my face. I almost laughed when the Cuisinart arrived at my door, because it's the way that we don't see that we are receiving, or we don't allow the receiving to come. Okay. Does that make sense?
No, that's true. Yeah. The things started to, it was like 2 weeks ago that Apple decided to give me a credit card. So I was like, oh, fuck it. Thank you. And I'd never get approved for anything over here. And I was like, at this time, all right, I'll take it. And I used that to like get the sauna, but that was like 2 weeks ago. And then, it arrived on Monday, I think. And it was a bit of a drama. But it took me a couple of days of obsessing before I chose me at that point, knowing that in the past it works for me. That's what I want. That's what I need. And I finally just sort of went, fuck it. And I think that started me choosing it. It's the first time I've spent money on me in the last like however many years and just not felt guilty. Going on, and this is okay. So
which is one of your sabotagers. So when you do see a part of yourself and you do something good for yourself, you need to tell that little girl how much she's doing. You know what I'm saying? It's just, even if she's doing bad and she's doing good, you have to do the work on both ends.
Okay.
So you also, your to-go sabotagers, the critical, or always, nothing's good enough. Nothing's this. It's like we have to look back and be like, whoa, I've done so many cool things in my life. And like take a moment of all the times that you've actually manifested or created or been successful, and then look at those as much, even looking back at relationships that you thought were negative that taught you. So now I look at my marriage and I'm like, oh God, I was talking about for a year in these podcasts about my marriage, that not full, just so mad. And now I'm like, oh, now I'm just so in love with him. Like, he's such a great dad. I'm like, God, he's so great. I mean, he can't do anything wrong anymore. I have so much compassion for him. I'm like, we're best friends. I don't know if he thinks we're best friends. I don't think he does. I don't think he thinks I'm great. But because I've created the reality that that's how it is, that's how it is.
Yeah. No, I've done that.
It doesn't matter what he's thinking.
Right.
It's like my reality is that we're in a great relationship. And
I do the same thing.
Yeah. So we have to choose like, oh, let's flip this. Like I'm flipping it on you.
Yeah.
I'm basically taking everything you're putting at me and giving you another side of it, because there's always a polarity.
And that's what I wanted to acknowledge too, just quickly, is that I thought I only paid for 3. So
I'm going to use this as a podcast. So that's why. Okay,
cool. And then I wanted to say how much I appreciate this more than anything, not just your level and how I got to you but I don't get to, and I could get emotional saying this, I don't get to have conversations like this with anyone in my world at all. I don't need to have them every day, but just to feel that I'm on the right path, or that I'm not crazy, and to I guess, reset myself. I have, healers and people I know and people I go to yoga with and people I do that with, but it doesn't get to this point. And what you have been saying to me, like, just brings me up in a way that sustains me, like, for a bit, and it has helped so much. Thank you. And
you'll give it back. And that's what we're all going to do. And everyone I ever work with, there isn't a woman or a male that doesn't come back and say, in the moment, I can be really critical, and I can be, Yogi Bhajan always says, poke, provoke, and elevate. Yeah. So notice how when we work together, when you start to work with women, which you can, because their sexual abuse, I could see if you go and fully heal that, you could help a lot of people. Yeah. So you poke them where it hurts. You provoke the memory and the thing that needs to be lifted, and then you elevate them up. Because without the poke and provoke, it's hard to move people. And so notice how we worked through our sessions, and I worked with you on poking and provoking those memories, then being very serious that you needed to change them. And that, playing for the rest of your life and not getting to work of the meditations isn't going to work. And then the elevation is that you're not crazy. There is a different viewpoint. And so if you can teach other women that, and you can teach, because we are, as a society, patriarchy is going to make us feel that our intuition is off, that our, going into the clouds and leaving our bodies off, and that hearing voices is off and clairvoyance is off. No. These are all God-given oracle gifts that all of humanity and the women, there's going to be a group of women, thousands of us, then millions and millions more, and the children coming in, that this will be a natural and innate thing. And so when you're 1 out of 100, you're the crazy one until you're not. Yeah. And so just remember, when you and the little sabotage, the little girl in you says, I'm crazy, I want to get off this planet. It's just a programming. It's all a template that needs to be burned out. It's not real.
Yeah. I agree with you. Just where it's like when you hit a break, something, that's kind of what pulls me back, is that if I had stopped this now, me, who and what has to, like, I've come this far in 43. This has been going on for so fucking long. Like, keep going. So,
right. So I encourage you to do as much as, if you can get that Jupiter chakra up to 33 minutes and continue that. It's
so keep that at 33. Do
what you want to do for now. But what a teacher told me changed my life. I walked up to him and I was really crazy then. And I said, I need you to give me a meditation. He goes, what are you doing right now? I said, I'm doing 11 minutes of this. And I was doing prosperity. I wanted to be rich. 11 minutes of this, 11 minutes of this, 11 minutes of this. He's like, you're an idiot. He's like, you think you're going to be rich? He's like, you can't get rich with prosperity meditations. You got to get the subconscious junk out. Then you can be rich. I was like, okay, what? He goes, pick one, do it a long time. So then I did the Jupiter chakra for a long time. He goes, pick one, go deeply into that. Because that's the thing with a lot of these spiritual practices is people jump from practice to practice to practice, thinking.
I was just finding it hard to decide, like the karmic clearing and the addiction and those three. I was like, fuck, I need to do them all.
Well, the karmic clearing you only do for 40 days.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay.
And then, so that one's a 40-day one. So the karmic clearing one is just a 40-day one, as much as you can do, right? But in the end, if I'm going to say to you, and I don't talk to you for years later, I mean, we'll talk again, but like in a year from now, and you get off track, because everybody comes back to me and I said, well, did you do what I told you to do? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, we have the same issue, right? And they're like, okay, I'm ready to do it now. And then they do it, and then they see all the changes happening, and they could have been done a year ago. Yeah. Every time. I just love them, and then they do it. But I'm just telling you, in a year from now, if you're like if you stop doing it, because everything's going to stop you from doing this meditation, because it works. You'll have more money than you've ever had. You'll be super successful, because everything's going to stop you from being your highest destiny. Yeah. Remember the sabotagers, right? We're our own sabotagers. So that meditation is very hard to do. There's a passing rate for it. There's like an entry fee. And so in a year from now, if you stop doing it for some reason, go back to it. It's always.
I stopped this week for a couple of days, and I kind of felt that, and then I just went back again this morning. I was like,
even if you it's better to do it every day, and anything's going to come up: sickness, being tired, having issues with. It's all a mind game of why it's the meditation and not just you,
right?
And I'm not saying if there's another way that's better, then do that. I don't know. I just
no. I know when I'm avoiding something that I need it. It just
and it might, for Kundalini. I started Kundalini yoga. It took me 4 years to start it. I avoided it for 4 active years, 4 maybe longer. I would walk in the studio, walk around all the time. I was like, no, and then I'd get drunk, and then I would party. Wasn't ready.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready. I have a friend right now, a best friend. She wasn't ready. I have given her meditations to do for years. Now she did her first class. She's obsessed. She has Yogi Bhajan coming to her in dreams. She's been like fully initiated into the lineage, and she's acting like, I always knew this. And I was like, I've been trying to get you to do this for 2 years. You cannot make anybody do anything. I can give it to you. I can't at all. That would be crazy. So I'm just giving it to you, and I'm saying, if you stop doing it, that's fine.
Yeah.
But in a year from now, if you forget what you're supposed to do, remember these words and restart it.
So just with the 33, if I do something, 5, 10, 11.
5, 10's fine.
Okay.
It's better.
So aiming for 33, but whatever I can do if I'm having okay.
If you can even do 4 minutes of it.
Okay.
I'm always going to push people to do the most they can do to move things through the fastest, because that's the kind of person I am.
Yeah.
And I'm way hardcore. Most people are not like me.
No, I'm like you. I just know that also if I don't do the 33, I won't do anything. So it's still. Okay.
I didn't always do the 33. There was moments where as long as you get it done.
Something, okay.
As long as you're like, even if it's a minute, you're still telling your subconscious, I'm winning.
And so I've done it sometimes just when I'm making my cup of tea. Is that okay?
I used to do it while listening to podcasts.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Like some days I didn't want to do it. I would be like listening, whatever I thought I needed to get done that was more important, I would do it while doing it. So I was like, as a woman, getting multiple things done.
Yes. Okay. No, I just wanted to check you didn't have to be in the one space like that. I can still just, as long as I'm getting it in there. Okay.
And then anyone who's listening, we're talking about the Jupiter chakra meditation, and it's on my website at www.mysticalmotherhood.com under meditations for childhood trauma and attachment.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you so much.
Okay, text me.
Have a good day.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.